Hello friends, welcome back. It's Mr. Squiggs here with another thrilling episode of Watching Paint Dry, by which I mean Soviet SimCity. It's Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. And to those of you, few of you who watched the first 6 episodes, you're probably wondering what is this new-ish, blank-ish map that you're looking at right now. Very different from what we were looking at before. None of the towns we were working on, Sherbrooke, Windsor, all gone. What happened? Well, friends, I have a confession to make. I thought I knew everything I needed to know, but I didn't know. I underestimated how hard realistic mode combined with the hardest possible settings could be, and suffice it to say that our first attempt at a realistic republic crashed and burned. About 2 minutes after I stopped recording, I was clicking through all the houses in Windsor, and every single one was empty. I tried inviting immigrants, they ran away. I tried forcing people from other towns in there, they ran away. Cash wore thin, my patience wore thin, and yeah, suffice it to say, not every republic works out. But we learned some invaluable lessons that are going to help us prevent this from happening a second time. I also did play further ahead before cutting this video together, so this time I know that we really are going to last at least a decade. So if this republic fails, it will be in the far future. We really are going to get a viable town built, and it's all the same settings as before. Hardest possible settings, high unsatisfaction reaction, and realistic mode. So, some of the key mistakes we made last time. First of all, I stretched myself thin by trying to develop 2 towns at once. You really can't do that. I'm just going to rename this. I'm going to give this a nice Brazilian Portuguese name. Bahia Nova means new bay, which I thought was appropriate. It's on a bay. It's a new attempt, a new day, a new chance at survival. Anyway, starting in the 2 opposite corners, I thought I was being clever, but I just made sure that my money wouldn't go as far as I needed it to. And the reason for that is related to the other big mistake that I made, which was thinking I could improve things incrementally, little bit by little bit. And it's one of those things where realistic mode, and it's not the fault of realistic mode. The game itself is not super realistic when you have the hardest possible settings for unsatisfied needs. And that's because you don't get credit for partially fulfilling needs. It's all or nothing. If you don't provide absolutely everything that the workers could ever dream of, they are going to run away. And in fact, if you're not providing the necessities, they're going to die at a high enough rate that it's really tragic and inconvenient. So that was the big thing. I was going through it thinking realistically, like, hey, these are village people who've never had a shop with imported goods available to them. They've never had piped water or electrical power available to them. So I was going into this with a bit of a more realistic mindset and not prepared for the rules of the game. And so I thought, give them some water, give them some power and a shop, and they should be happier than before. And that's true, but the part of the mistake was using their labor to do it. And there was a distinction that I had to research later between active and inactive workers in this game. And it's not apparent by clicking on the houses. The houses don't tell you. The population statistics do tell you, but basically workers are split into active and inactive. And the upshot is that workers, citizens, spawn at the houses, and they try to leave to find workplaces, and they try to leave to find everything they need, shops and services. But what I didn't realize was that if you do not use their labor, if there are no workplaces in range, and they fail to find a workplace, eventually they kind of stop trying and they become an inactive worker. And inactive workers also don't try to get their services. So that's why the towns we do not touch and do not develop at all appear to be frozen in time. Because in fact, the workers, yes, they try and they don't find a workplace at first. And yes, they try to find their services and they don't find them and they complain. So if you click on those houses, there's all these red error messages, status messages telling you, hey, no jobs, no health care, no child care, no food, no power, no water, no sewage, blah, blah, blah. Yes, of course, they complain about all this. They did try and fail. But after failing, because they become inactive, they do get sort of frozen in time, and they don't die or escape. Or if they do, they are somehow magically being replaced at the same rate. So that was the big mistake, developing 2 towns at once when I should have focused on just one to begin. Not having the holistic view, not building every service they could need, and using the labor, making those workers active. As soon as we use our own domestic labor, those workers are going to expect everything under the sun. And if they don't find it with hard mode, they will run away. So that's what we're going to avoid this time. I did play a bit further ahead this time, so don't worry. I know we were emotionally invested last time, and now that whole world is gone. But I made sure that wasn't going to happen this time. I played a good 20 hours ahead, so don't worry. So I'm just going to start off in this town with some roads. And really, we're going to build all the infrastructure we could dream of. Water, power, sewage, waste collection, shops, restaurants, schools, healthcare, everything. And we're going to do it all with foreign labor from the customs house. It's cheaper than inviting immigrants. It's cheaper than allowing our citizens to run away. And in fact, you'll see, I do end up cheating a little bit. I do end up forcing some citizens to move from other towns to this town. And I do end up inviting a few immigrants here and there. But it's not the crash and burn we had last episode in episode 6. I never reach a population 0 in this town, which was sadly the fate of Windsor last time, my most developed town. Everybody ran away. This time that doesn't happen. This time it's purely just to balance. When I don't have enough labor for the basics, I smuggle a few people in. But inviting immigrants is expensive compared to using foreign labor for a construction project. It's actually relatively affordable to send a bus to the map edge, pick up some workers, bring them to the construction site. That's pretty cheap compared to inviting immigrants into empty homes that don't have access to everything they need, where they're just going to run away again. And the other option, forcing people to move, well, surprise, surprise, I guess it is pretty realistic. People don't like the government forcing them to move, even if they're supposedly going to a better home. So in the last game we were trying, what was actually happening was that I was moving people around a lot, and they take a big happiness hit when that happens. And so that's only viable if the new house they get to really truly has access to everything they could possibly want. Then most of them are going to stay. But in the Republic I was doing last time, I was moving them to houses where they weren't going to stay. They were going to flee the Republic. So we learned our lessons. We've got our plan. I'm going to crank up the speed way higher so that it's a bit less like waiting for the grass to grow. And without further ado, we'll plan this town of Bahia Nova. Okay, so we've thrown down a bunch of buildings already. I'm just sketching out some of these gravel roads here. And yeah, I'm doing this again a bit differently than last time. I'm focused on the buildings and the infrastructure that people are going to need. I basically want this whole town to be walkable. Obviously, we are going to move people around with some buses soon enough, but in terms of the essentials, there are some buildings like the town hall, the police station, university, that at the beginning I'm only going to be able to afford to build one of them. So I really was trying to make sure that those buildings take the prime real estate to the center of town. And things like a school and an orphanage and a pub, I think I've placed a couple of each of those. Couple sports fields, even a couple indoor pools, because guess what? The sports fields won't work during the winter. So yeah, I'll even do some decoration here. It's kind of the lowest priority, but we are going to need some decor in order to impact citizen loyalty. If we have no decoration at all, I'm pretty sure that will negatively impact citizen loyalty. So I'm just going to place a couple of these here. There we go. But yeah, so soon enough, I'll build some construction offices to get this stuff built, and I'll do sort of the main networks. So there's sort of an advantage to placing all of the civil infrastructure buildings first, which is that soon I'm going to put in electricity, water, sewage, heating, and waste collection. And it's nice to already know that all of that is going to be in range of all the buildings that need it, rather than building it first, only to discover that, well, we don't have room for all the other buildings we need, and they go beyond the range of that infrastructure. So that's sort of the logic here of how I've been placing these buildings. The plan is very much to use existing housing stock. Some of it is possibly of questionable quality, but at least those sort of bigger houses downtown, they're going to start out with quality of around 80%, which is more than good enough to convince people to stay. That is not low enough that people are going to flee that. So I might just take a look at some water infrastructure here. We'll see how many tries it takes me to get right. Okay, so we've got all the infrastructure we need for our town now. So I'm going to fling a couple of proper vanilla construction offices here, big ones. We need big ones, and we need two, because we need everything that we've planned in this town to go up pretty quick. I've also got, I might just make those high priority, exactly. I've got some dirt parking lots around, demolition office, another smaller construction office for building my two construction offices. But at first, everything is going to come from the customs house. Labor, gravel, everything. And this is one of the things we didn't do before. I tried getting... on the first try, I tried getting a bus stop built so I could use my domestic labor. We are going to build bus stops, but we are going to be careful not to use the labor right away. Also, you probably saw me clicking through a bunch of windows of all of the garbage stands that I built, just to throttle the number of workers at each one. Because again, once all these buildings are at a later stage of construction, I'm going to need to make sure that not all the workers flood into those, using up their work days. So I just grabbed a couple of vehicles here. I'm absolutely going to need an oil tank, because even my construction vehicles, they need gas from this free gas station. So there will have to be a vehicle to keep replenishing that gas, again, from the customs house. So yeah, why two construction offices? A, I want to get a lot of vehicles, and B, there's maintenance. Eventually, they will both need maintenance, and they may not be able to carry on construction efficiently while they're waiting for maintenance. So this way, they can maintain each other automatically, as long as they each have at least one of the vehicles that they need. So I am just throwing down a bit of some free dumps as well. I guess I should probably get dump trucks. Won't need that right away, but it's good to have it, especially industry buildings at the beginning. If we have any hope of industry at all, they're going to produce waste, not to mention the town. And I am hoping to do some rudimentary separation, at least the hazardous waste. Hazardous waste, I've noticed it creates pollution in the vicinity. So if we can at least separate out hazardous from industry at the beginning into its own dump, that will be a benefit, because our mixed waste supply will be a bit cleaner. So I did push play, and we're just going to see those vehicles we bought come in from the customs house, really just starting out with the basics, because we need to build these little gravel driveways into our construction office and build the construction offices themselves. And with the free construction office dirt parking lot, we are restricted to just 4 vehicles. So what have I got so far? Just this oil tank, which I'm going to instruct to keep refilling gas at our gas station. And yeah, the basic construction vehicles, bus for workers, dumper for gravel and asphalt, and an excavator, and maybe I'll get a crane as the 4th vehicle. We'll see. We'll end up seeing what these construction offices need, but here we go. These are the very first things. Yeah, right away, the vehicles, before they do any work on construction, they are heading to get gasoline, of course. But there we go. Dump truck just headed to the border. Let's take a look at the town. Let's see. Yeah, I guess I need high priority. Even though they're the only things under construction, I have noticed some bizarre cases where I don't know if it's real or if it's imagined or if I'm just impatient, but I seem to have noticed cases where if I don't make it high priority, workers never get brought there. So, I don't know. Maybe it's all in my head, but just to make me feel better, I made those high priority. And we got buses bringing workers in. Excellent. So we'll speed this up a bit. We'll maybe, get one more vehicle. And we'll start some construction here. All right, we got one of our 2 construction offices built at last. I did need to acquire a few more construction vehicles just to speed these up. A road crane really helps cut down on the labor that's required, and both of these buildings needed bricks and boards, so that absolutely required some open haul trucks. And I did have to swap them out back and forth between the temporary dirt parking lot and the free construction office, just because the diversity, even something as simple as a construction office, the diversity of vehicles that I felt were required was more than 4. It was at least 5 or 6 types of vehicles, so I did have to swap them out. Even concrete. I even needed a concrete mixer. I thought it needed asphalt. I didn't realize it also needed concrete, but there you go. But no trouble. Was going to need all of these vehicles anyway to build everything in the town, so I am able to start sending all of these over to that first construction office, or at least the temporary construction office. But we'll see. We'll get this other one up and running, and then we will get to build. Just clarifying how these intersections are going to work, because we do need to think about efficiency in this busy, it's going to become a high traffic area. And I think I'm going to want to buy a whack of vehicles. Oh, there's my second construction office. Excellent. So we'll define everything as coming from the border. We'll increase. So I'm gonna let these auto search and find all the constructions, but I am increasing the wear and tear required for construction. I think some of the houses, they do have different levels of wear and tear. So some of them are going to want maintenance right away, and I'm going to make them wait until some stuff is built. But I'm going to buy a whack of vehicles here, particularly a bunch of open hull trucks. And one of the other reasons I like to have 2 construction offices is I like to put almost all my open hull trucks in just one of them, and anything that's not self-propelled or too slow, like your bulldozer, your excavator, your asphalt paver, all those I like to put in that construction office where I keep all my open hull trucks, because there's a bit of an efficiency gain there. In theory, I like to keep it about 1-to-1, 1 truck per 1 vehicle, But in practice, there's a lot of time. You need open haul trucks for two things. You need them to carry the slow vehicles to and from the construction sites, but then there's also lots of materials: steel, concrete panels, bricks, boards, all that kind of thing that get transported in the open haul trucks. So I like to sort of pool them all in one construction office because there's a bit of an efficiency gain there. In practice, I won't always be needing all of them to be moving vehicles around, and there will be some left over for moving construction material around, and we'll get a bit of extra efficiency versus if we had put open hull trucks in a construction office where it didn't have vehicles it needed to transport. I'm going to need a lot of things that I think of as self-propelled anyway: buses, concrete mixers, road cranes, things like that. So that's what goes in the other construction office. Dumpers, oh my gosh, at the beginning, everything's going to be gravel and asphalt and coal. I'm going to need a small army of these dump trucks, especially these little ones that we have access to early game that I think they only carry 12 tons. So we're going to need a lot of them. So basically that's what it is. One office for open hulls and one office for dumpers at the beginning. But it looks like some of these are heading off towards the town anyway, so let's crank up the speed and watch this town get built. All right, let's take a little look at the town so far. For first year, not too bad. We've gone from February to September 1960, and there's a decent amount of things built. More importantly, most of these old city houses are still full of workers. They have not been affected. Their labor has not been used. I did continue buying vehicles. I bought a snow plow to be ready for winter. We got one school built. We got a bus stop built. And several nice paved roads with sidewalks. Normally, I was going to do everything in gravel and leave that till later, but I wound up buying pavers and a paver and a roller. So I thought, hey, let's do some paved roads right away before we put in all the driveways, right? It's a bit more efficient. The longer the fewer jobs, the more efficient when it comes to road work, right? It's more efficient to you're bringing in your vehicles, you're bringing in your material. It's a bit more efficient to do a longer stretch of road. So especially since I've got all these buildings that don't all have their driveways yet, I figured, hey, let's do a bunch of paved roads already that are going to speed up pedestrian and car travel a little bit. And as those get built, we can, it's also a good way of throttling the rate of construction and how many sites we've got going at once, because we won't hook up driveways for the most part until the street that's in front of them is paved. But we're doing it little by little here and there just to avoid blocking any big arteries, and always throttling the number of workers, just because the construction offices don't seem to do a very good job of estimating how much labor is needed when. They will wait usually until construction reaches a stage where labor is required, but they don't calculate how much, and they will sometimes bring in labor before resources. So I do like to throttle most of my constructions reduce the number of workers, because it does happen that labor gets brought in before any resources and they're sitting around waiting for something to do. So by throttling it that way, the construction does go more gradually, and so there's less idle time of the workers. They're able to sort of work slowly, which is nice because usually you can't bring all your construction material in a single trip anyway. It's multiple trips and multiple vehicles, so it's actually a good thing for them to work through the material they have slowly while waiting for other material. But yeah, so I think we're doing not too bad just for the first year. Obviously, most of what we need is not built yet, but we're going to keep on working through the winter, and who knows, maybe by spring this will mostly be built. We'll see. And isn't that nice? Just have a nice little view of the town as the sun comes up, with the graphics turned off, with the UI turned off, rather. And you can see all the smoke coming out of the chimneys, which is a good sign. Just means that the homes are full still, but also they're heating themselves, causing a bit of pollution. Eventually we'll have a heating plant that might help with that. But there we go. All right, folks, so we've played through about a year from the end of February 1960 to here we are, early March 1961. And yeah, I think we're going to leave it there for now pretty soon. But yeah, we're upgrading the road that connects the town to the border, added in a gas station. We're going to pave some more roads along here. Yeah, I think things are coming along pretty well. I do realize most of the buildings we've planned are yet to even be started, but don't worry, the roads and the other infrastructure, they're coming along really well. We do have some pipes and electrical wiring put in already, and I know it doesn't seem as flashy as the buildings, but those are really, honestly, the hard part. It's about a year to build all the buildings we need and another year for all the infrastructure, and we've pretty much got most of that infrastructure built already. So I do predict an activation of the town sometime in 1962. So hang in there, folks. Come on back for the next episode, and we'll keep getting this town built. Thanks for watching. I'm Mr. Squiggs.